Welcome back. All right, so news of the day video for all you fine people for your Wednesday, March the 16th. We are 5 days out from the trade deadline. We're 44 days from the end of the season. So, yeah, we're only 6 weeks away from the end of the season. A couple days beyond 6 weeks. So Matt Murray, in all likelihood, could very well miss the rest of the season, according to Coach Smith. It's bad. It's too bad because Murray had a better run after being called back up, and it looked like he was doing a very good job of redeeming himself. Couple of rough starts before he ends up out with injury. But again, for Ottawa, this is a team that envisions themselves as being in the hunt for the playoffs next season. They wanted to be there this season, so there's definitely some heat, you would think, on management to make the right improvements. And so Matt Murray, we'll see if he's part of the goaltending picture next season or what they do there. Ottawa's going to be a very interesting team to watch because, again, it's been a very disappointing season for them. And I think they're going to do everything they can in the offseason to become a competitive, almost playoff team or just flat out a playoff team. There are some good young players coming up at all positions. So, goaltending is going to be a spot to watch. Forsberg's had a very good run, but are you going to look at Forsberg and say he could be the starter next season, or are you more likely to look and say he could be a backup next year? And I think the answer is he should, potentially be looked at as the backup, which then raises the question of who would be the starter, though. Is Gustafsson going to be that guy? Is it going to end up being Murray again? Or are they going to do something else? It's going to be interesting to watch. Of course, last night, the Alex Ovechkin watch means that he is now past Jaromir Jagr with his 767th goal. Next up for him is Gordy Howe, who has 801, so that's 34 more goals. The expectation is he passes Howe probably middle of next season. And so we're waiting to see how long it's going to take. I know there are those that aren't happy that, every goal that he scores gets counted at this point and everybody's counting down, but I don't think this is going to happen again. I mean, there's the outside chance that Austin Matthews eventually gets into this realm, but that's at least, 15 years, 10, 15 years from now? I'm going to be really old by that point, so this is probably my last chance to be doing some sort of a countdown. 10, 15 years from now, I wouldn't think I'm standing in front of a whiteboard anymore. Probably doing something else. Anyways, we'll see with Ovechkin how long it takes for him to catch up to Howe. Congratulations to him now on being third on the all-time list. And, of course, not so far out from the Gretzky record that it's not something people are watching. Absolutely something people are watching. But that's probably 3 years away from really seriously being a possibility for him passing Gretzky. Tyler Bozak out at least a month for the St. Louis Blues. It's a lower body injury for him. That hurts. It does mean that they're likely to go out and pick up a forward at the deadline. It does mean that they can put him on IR and maybe LTIR, depending on how they play this, and maybe get themselves some extra space. But for St. Louis, probably going to add at the deadline anyways. This maybe speeds things up. Maybe it changes a little bit what they were looking at picking up. Shalgren starts last night. He gets a shutout. Very well played game. He is now being thrown in tomorrow night again against the Canes. So Toronto knows that they need a goaltender to heat up, and so obviously the hot hand's going to go. It looked like it might have been Mrazek. Mrazek then has a couple of rough games. Now it's Shalgren. We'll see what happens in the game tomorrow night against Carolina. Carolina, very lethal offensively. It's a little bit different than Dallas. Dallas can be so hot and cold. So one night they can score 6 or 7 and look great, and the next night there's nothing. So we'll see with Shalgren how things go for him against Carolina. I wish him the best. I absolutely do. It is going to be tough though to do that back to back, and the pressure in Toronto can get a little bit intense. But again, they're in the hunt for first. They really are. They're not close to Florida, but they're only a point behind Tampa. So, I mean, if they could get second in the division and get home ice advantage in the first round, you have to think that would help. Last time they had a home ice advantage in a playoff round, there were no fans in attendance, and I think that may have been a part of it. And again, do they beat Columbus if there's fans there? Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe if it's a standard series, but it'd be nice to see them with home ice in a potential Game 7 situation and see if that helps. All right. For Canuck news, Elias Patterson could return tomorrow against the Wings. They're not saying that he will, but he could absolutely return tomorrow against the Wings. So it's not seen that it's a longer-term injury or that it's going to be weeks and weeks. So that's good news. And JT Miller has 27 points since February 12th. That is the most in the National Hockey League. Second behind him in points since that point in time is Patrick Kane, who has 25. So very, very, very good run for Miller. Multiple point games, seemingly at will. He's top 10 in overall points in the National Hockey League. This is the career year that most players dream of, and yeah, I'm here for it. Good for him. He's helped to kind of single-handedly drag Vancouver to where they are in the standings, though you can make the argument Thatcher Demko's played a large role as well. And last night, Bo Horvat had a great game, and Bruce Boudreau praised him for that after the game. So, yeah, Miller continues to be hot. Florida's an interesting case. So last night, Florida beat San Jose, and Brian Boucher, I thought, had good insight with Florida, where he said this is a tough team to grade at the deadline because they haven't had that real setback yet. They haven't gone through a really tough time, a huge test for them. From the start of the season, they've kind of been above everybody. I mean, obviously, them and Tampa were going back and forth for first in the division, but they haven't had the kind of trials and tribulations that other contenders have had. And right now, you look at their goals per game, they're first at 4.1. Goal differential, they're first in the league at plus 75. Shots per game, 36.7. They're first there. Their power play has gotten better. It's now top 10 at 23.4%. In power play goals, they're third in the league with 45. Shorthanded goals, they're first in the league at with 9. But come playoff time and against just one opponent, when things get a lot more difficult, that is where the real test is going to come in. And it might be hard for a general manager to look at this team and say, okay, well, what we need is here and here. We should be fine. But there are discussions about who may or may not be on the way out of Florida. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Because, again, it feels like Florida has become one of the top 3 favorites to win the Cup. I would say between Colorado, Florida, and Tampa. Honorable mention to Carolina in there. But yeah, Florida, Tampa, and Colorado seem to be the most likely to get picked. Tampa Bay back-to-back Cups. Colorado's been an odds-on favorite from the start of the year, and Florida's become a very popular pick as well. And of course, again, Carolina, an outside shot too. And I say outside, realizing that, yeah, they have all the pieces they need to potentially go to the Stanley Cup final and win it too. But for Florida, it's going to be interesting to see how this works out in the playoffs. Because this has all been great. It's going really, really well. Wake me up in the playoffs is kind of what I've had going through my head the last couple of weeks. Waiver wire news, Jankowski clears. So with that, Buffalo could absolutely move him to a team where he would get sent down to the minors. You don't have to waive him again for 30 days. Waivers today, Tyler Benson's been waived by the Oilers. Now, Benson's a younger player. It is possible a team might look at Benson and say, with the right situation, he might be able to realize some of that offensive potential. Montreal has waived Matthew Perreault. Perreault probably clears. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't. But if he doesn't, it'll be a team looking for experience at the deadline who has cap space to take Perreault on, or they don't mind waiving somebody else to bring in Matthew Perreault. So we'll see if they clear. And Elliot Friedman's reporting that the Rangers and Panthers are apparently having chats about Frank Vatrano. Now, often when Fried reports it, it becomes a trade pretty quickly thereafter. So I won't be surprised if after I'm done recording this video and I refresh all my feeds, if Vatrano's become a member of the Rangers. I have been a Frankie Vatrano fan from the very beginning in Boston. I think there's a 20-goal scorer there. I think he's a very competitive forward. I think he's got a lot going for him. And I really do hope that he finds the spot where he's going to perform at his best. And if that's with the New York Rangers, then good on him for that. And yeah, so we'll see whether or not that actually comes through. Interesting news with Seattle. It's been reported that Giordano will not be in the lineup. Dave Haxtell saying he won't be in the lineup tonight. So that means that he is absolutely on the market. And they might be holding him out until somebody comes along and makes the right offer. We'll see, but it definitely looks like with Giordano out of the lineup, they may very well be holding him out. And again, this is the one case where I understand. Where I get lost kind of is where towards the end of the season, teams will be resting a whole lot of players because the playoffs are in like a week and they want to give them some rest. There are times where that seems to throw off a team's timing and their chemistry. This year, though, might be different. I'll be a lot more understanding because there's a lot of games squashed into a short period of time. So if they want to give a guy a night off because they've played 15 games in 20 days, I really don't see anything wrong with that because, yeah, this year it's kind of crazy. But we'll see. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.